Okay, this is Muho again. I ran out of battery, but I hope now it's gonna last a little bit. I was trying to give a reply to the question why I accept only people between the age of 18 and 40 who want to stay for a minimum of 3 years and speak a certain amount of Japanese already. And I was talking about my visit to Melbourne. I think it was 3 years ago. And Sekan-san took me to this restaurant called Lentil as Anything, which was founded by a person from Sri Lanka called Shanaka Fernando. And when he first came to Australia, I think for a while he was living in a tent on the shore in Melbourne. Kind of like myself 15 years ago when I was living as a homeless in Osaka. And then he started these restaurants where you can pay as you feel. You can pay as much as you want, or you can pay nothing. Basically the meal that you eat has already been paid for. It's up to you to decide if you want to support the kitchen on the next day. And there's several of these restaurants in Melbourne. It seems to be a success. And doing some research on the internet, I heard that after living in a tent, Shanaka Fernando, he rented a house and he put a sign on the front of the house and said, well, the door in the back is always open. So if you need a place to sleep, you can come inside. There's food in the refrigerator. Please help yourself. I don't know if he still does that, but that sounds like a great thing to do. You keep your house open. People are welcome to come anytime. You can eat. They can sleep there. Everybody's welcome. According to Wikipedia, the court ordered Fernando in 2011 to pay $14,000 in travel fees, and he said, "Well, that was not me. I gave my car. Anybody who wanted to use my car was welcome to use my car." So actually was other people that are responsible for these traffic fees. And I could imagine that that's true, that other people used his car, he let him use his car, but still he was ordered to pay back these fees. And maybe that was okay with him, but for somebody like me, that's kind of a frustrating experience to make. And during the 10 years that I kept Antaiji open for anybody, and I said anybody can come here anytime, can leave anytime, you don't have to pay. It's up to you decide how long you stay. Don't need to speak Japanese either. I often made frustrating experiences, or even though it was only nice people coming here and great people, it was great to meet these people, often I felt quite tired. One thing is that although it was often a good amount of people during the summer months when it's warm, most people left during the winter. And during the first 3 years it was only me and one more person. Always another person. So each spring I had to teach the newcomers again from zero how to plant a rice field, how to grow vegetables in the vegetable field, how to use a chainsaw, stuff like that. Another thing that happened, I think was already during the first or second year, that somebody fell head first from the roof. He was a professional roof kind of working on roofs professionally in Germany, so I didn't expect that to happen, but he fell for whatever reason head first from the roof. I had to take him to the hospital to get him CT scanned. Fortunately, he seemed to be alright, but seemed to be okay. But well, then he had to go back to Germany anyway. I had to make sure that he could get back to Germany. Probably the following year, it was a gentleman from Poland who decided to take the motorbike from Antaiji to town. He had a license, but unfortunately it was only a Polish license, not an international valid license. And for some reason he thought it's okay to go without a helmet. So the police stopped him, first because he had no helmet. Then they asked for the license, and they found out he didn't have an international driver's license, on the Polish license. Also, they couldn't communicate with him, so they called me as the responsible person from Antaiji. I had to basically deal with the police for actually a number of days. They kept him at the police station. They fined him $1,500, which he didn't have. He couldn't pay. The option would have been that he went to prison for, I don't know, a month or so, but he didn't have enough visa to go to prison for a month. So it was a big mess. And basically I was the one who was supposed to be responsible because I'm his mentor here. Another person also from Poland in the summer went to the beach, maybe had a drink at the beach. He was using the bicycle, but on his way back he difficulties taking a curve. He hit a kind of electric pole head first. Somebody found them lying by the road. They called an ambulance, but for some reason he refused to take that ambulance. There was also the police coming. They called me again. In the end I had to take him to the hospital several times. It was a big injury. And these things keep happening. There was one gentleman from Germany who had a heart attack. He couldn't speak any Japanese, so I had to do all the things. So the bypass operation had to be done. Forms had to be signed, basically that the hospital is not going to take any responsibility in case this person dies. Another person from France in the winter, when Antaiji isn't accessible, he had problems mentally, and he got naked and started to beat people around him. So we had to call in a helicopter and bring him to the hospital. Again, he didn't speak Japanese, so I had to function as the translator. And I don't think these are the only cases. It happened quite a lot of time during this 10 years. There was this one guy who brought the pressure cooker in the kitchen to explode, and he had to go to the hospital for a week into intensive care. He was from America. He didn't speak any Japanese. He didn't have any health insurance, and he had to pay $10,000 for this 1 week in intensive care, which he didn't have. And again, then they asked me for the money. So it's a little bit like with Shanaka. Fernando has to pay the traffic fees for the people to whom he gives his car. At one point, 3 years ago, I felt pretty out of energy, and I felt, well, I can't run this place like a guest house. And actually, I don't think of Antaiji as a guest house. I don't think this is supposed to be a guest house. I don't think I have an obligation to take anybody who just happens to be in Japan, maybe is on a trip around the world, or just visits Japan, maybe has an interest in Zen and wants to come to Antaiji for 2 weeks or so. Maybe even now I might make an exception for such a person if I know them already, or if they already speak Japanese. I know they can communicate that there, but I don't think I don't have an obligation to do that. And actually 3 years ago, when I changed the rules, to my surprise, more people came until before. Before, when I said anybody can come for any time you want, there were less people here than now. Although now I say you have to stay 3 years. You should have a basic knowledge of Japanese. You should be between 18 and 40. I try to explain that on the homepage why these rules exist, but, well, for example, with the language. I'm not Japanese, but Antaiji is in Japan. The majority of people who stay in Antaiji right now are Japanese, so the common language is Japanese. If you want to stay for more than 90 days, you have to apply for a visa. This needs to be done in Japanese. You have to get your registration card as a town office. They don't speak English at the town office. If things like happen like in the past, you have an accident, you need to go to the hospital. Not all of the doctors do speak English. Most of the nurses don't speak English. So if you don't speak Japanese, you need a translator. And I don't have the time to be at the hospital all the time. I need to be in Antaiji as well. So I cannot be your translator. And when I first came to Antaiji, I already spoke a certain amount of Japanese because for me this was a lifetime commitment. I knew this is what I want to invest my life in. I want to invest my life in Zen practice, and I want to have Antaiji for people like that, who say this is a lifetime commitment for me, and who prepare for that. And I don't think that's too much to ask for. If you look for guest house, there are guest houses in Japan. If you look for a Zen monastery and you don't speak Japanese, there are Zen monasteries where you don't need to speak Japanese. There are Zen monasteries in America, in Europe. I don't know if you can stay there for free, but you don't need to speak Japanese to practice Zen, and you don't need to do it in Japan. It's possible in other places. If you want to do it in Antaiji, I think you should do basic preparation for that. And one part of that is studying Japanese. Another thing is committing for 3 years, because during the first year you don't know much about what needs to be done here. It's only during the second year that you understand how the tasks are connected, and only during the third year that you become able to teach others and that you can give something back. Is it possible to lead this life after the age of 40? Maybe yes, but well, I'm 47 and I feel it becoming harder and harder for me now. Although I've been living here for 25 years. It's not so easy for me anymore.